Hello everyone, welcome back to the Anatomy Lab. Today we're going to be looking at the spinal cord as well as some of the nerves that extend away from it. But although it looks pretty simple, the spinal cord actually has a variety of different structures that you can find within it. So first of all, a good thing to do first, to orient yourself, is to determine which side is anterior and which side is posterior. So both anterior and posterior sides are going to have some specific landmarks or characteristics that you can use to determine which side is which. And that is going to help you with orienting yourself. So a good way to start off was, first of all, let's take a look at the types of tissues that we have here. So this on the outside, this is the lighter color. This on the inside is the darker color. This superficial portion is going to be called the white matter, while the internal deep portion is going to be called the gray matter. Now, as you can see, the gray matter has some specific shapes that is going to find within it. And depending on that shape, it is going to help you with determining which side is which. So often people will kind of compare this to a butterfly-like shape, but if you look for the wings of the butterfly, you'll be able to see that the anterior or the posterior sides will be a little bit different. So if you see the rounded regions of the white matter, the rounded regions of the gray matter, that is going to indicate that this is the anterior or the ventral horns. So this would be the ventral horns that are more rounded. These are going to be the dorsal horns that are more pointed, meaning that now you know this is anterior versus posterior, or ventral versus dorsal. So even if we were to look at it from this view, we should know that because we see the rounded horns here, this is going to be the anterior or ventral side. So let's just go back to our normal position, but if we look at this, now we know which side is which. So one more horn, though, that you can see here is that on the side over here, that you can see that there's also a lateral horn. So you have ventral horn, dorsal horn, and lateral horn. Now this is going to help you with everything else, as now you kind of know this crack, this is going to, or you have two things here. You have the anterior median fissure, and then you have the posterior median sulcus. So this one is just a little bit smaller than this one. This one is a little bit deeper, which is why this one's a fissure versus a sulcus. So that is one more good way to look at this, but it is a little bit less clear. I would often use the gray matter more than anything. But there are some other things to look for as well, as in the white matter. So the white matter, you would have the ventral funiculus. You would also have the dorsal funiculus. And then where you have the very lateral portions, the lateral funiculus. So horns for the gray matter, funiculus for the white matter, but once again, it's divided between ventral, dorsal, and then lateral. Now the spinal cord is also going to have this little hole in the middle. This is going to be called the central canal. So this is the central canal, which is going to have cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF, running through it. And this is going to be part of the circulation of your cerebrospinal fluid, allowing for effective transmission of electrical signals. Now, besides the spinal cord, though, you can see that there are a variety of different nerves, or neurons attaching to it. So depending on which regions they are, they will be called different things, but let's take a look at what we have here. So on the ventral side, we know that because of the gray matter, that is going to have nerves that are attaching to the gray matter over here, or attaching to the spinal cord using these neurons. This portion that's attaching to the spinal cord here is called the ventral root. So the ventral root attaches to the spinal cord on the ventral side, and we know that because of the ventral horn. Similarly, we also have neurons that are attaching on the posterior side, or the dorsal side. This is going to be called the dorsal root. So the dorsal root attaches to the posterior side, and once again we know that because of the dorsal horns, the pointed dorsal horns. But one more important one that we can see here is this. So this, although you can't see it super clearly because it's kind of covered by connective tissue, inside of here, this is a bulbous region. You can see that it's kind of rounded and fat. That's not typical to most nerves or neurons. This is going to be where you have a lot of cell bodies. This is called a ganglion. And specifically, this is going to be the dorsal root ganglion. So notice that that is not on the ventral side, it is only on the dorsal side. So once again, another structure to help with orienting you. This is the dorsal root ganglion attached to the dorsal root. So even if we didn't have the gray matter, we can determine Dorsal root because of dorsal root ganglion. Ventral root because no dorsal root ganglion. And then one more structure that you can see here, like as you have the dorsal roots, the dorsal root and the ventral roots joining together, this is called the spinal nerve. The spinal nerve is going to extend away from the spinal cord to go like to or from another body part. So that is how it's going to be able to communicate with another structure. And you can see that a little bit more clearly in this like model over here, where from the spinal cord you'll have these structures, the spinal nerves, that extend away from the spinal cord or like carry neurons that go to it as well. So it's going to have pathways of the ventral and the dorsal roots, meaning that you have neurons that go out as well as in, like within the spinal nerves. So the spinal cord is honestly not too bad, but make sure that you're being careful. Like that's the key thing. You need to orient yourself just like how you would with anything else. Just look at things that will help you with understanding which side is which, and be specific in which they are. So I think that's about it for this video. Good luck with your studying, keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you all soon.